Have you ever woken up one morning and felt like a stranger in your own life? Maybe you're sipping coffee at the kitchen table, staring at the same routine you've lived for years, and suddenly the thought hits you. Is this really the life I wanted? Or just the one I fell into? It's not a dramatic Hollywood moment. It's quieter than that. It comes after decades of doing the right thing, working hard, putting family first, keeping the peace, wearing whatever mask helped you fit in. Somewhere along the line, your own voice got drowned out. I've lived long enough to know this truth. Most people have a silent voice deep inside them, a voice that whispers when the house is quiet, but we push it aside. We silence it with responsibilities, with fear of letting people down, or simply with exhaustion. And then one day, maybe in retirement or after a health scare, maybe after the kids are grown, that voice gets too loud to ignore. Carl Jung once wrote, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." That line hits different when you're older. It's not about chasing dreams out there anymore. It's about finally waking up to yourself. And that's what this conversation is about. What really happens when you finally choose yourself. Before we dive in, if you find comfort in honest conversations like this, hit subscribe. We share stories that don't just pass time, they help make sense of it. Most of us can point to a moment when we felt the shift. For me, it happened in my 50s. I remember shaving one morning and barely recognizing the man in the mirror. I saw someone who had spent decades saying yes when he wanted to say no, who had smiled through things that hurt, who had lived by other people's approval. That moment felt like something breaking inside me, not in a tragic way, more like a crack in the dam. And through that crack came one simple but dangerous question. What if, just this once, I chose me? It's a terrifying thought if you've lived most of your life as a people pleaser. But it's also liberating, because the moment you ask it, the old script starts to unravel. Maybe you've felt that too. Maybe you've reached the end of a long career and realized you never really liked the work. Or maybe you've stayed in a friendship or relationship out of obligation, not joy. That moment of honesty, though painful, is the seed of transformation. Here's what I wish someone had told me. When you start choosing yourself, the world around you won't clap and cheer. In fact, it often pushes back. When I began setting boundaries, friends who were used to my automatic yes didn't know how to handle it. One even said to me, half joking, "You've gotten difficult." At first, I felt guilty. Was I becoming selfish? Was I letting people down? But over time, I saw the truth. I wasn't being selfish. I was being honest. And honesty shakes people, especially those who benefited from your silence. Some drifted away, and that stung. But the people who mattered stayed. They adapted. They got to know the real me, not the role I'd been playing. That's the thing. Choosing yourself doesn't just change you, it changes your circle. And sometimes it's a pruning process. Painful, but necessary. Because the ones who remain will be those who love you for who you are, not for what you provide. I once knew a woman in her 60s who had spent her whole life being the yes person in her family. She cooked, she babysat, she bent over backwards to keep everyone happy. One day, she simply stopped. She told her grown kids, "I love you, but I'm not your safety net anymore. I want to live my own life." At first, they pushed back hard, but months later she told me, "Sam, it's the first time I've felt alive in decades." That's the power of choosing yourself. Approval is an addictive drug. I know, I chased it for decades. At work, I'd overperform just to hear a boss say, "Good job." At home, I'd keep quiet just to avoid conflict. I thought peace meant harmony, but really, it just meant I was shrinking. The day I realized I didn't need external applause was the day I felt truly free. Not invincible, not perfect, just free. I didn't need to prove my worth anymore. Jung called this individuation, becoming the most authentic version of yourself. And it feels like putting down a heavy backpack you didn't even realize you were carrying. You don't walk away arrogant. You walk away lighter. If you're wondering how to begin, here's something simple. For 1 week, keep track of when you say yes and when you say no. Then ask yourself, did I say yes because I wanted to, or because I felt guilty? That small exercise can reveal just how much of your life is built on borrowed approval. And once you see it, you can begin to change it. Aging comes with baggage. We all carry should-haves and why didn'ts. Nights when you can't sleep because you're replaying mistakes, lost opportunities, or words left unsaid. But when you choose yourself, the grip of the past loosens. You realize that your younger self wasn't a fool. They were just doing their best with the tools they had at the time. That realization is an act of mercy. I think of an old friend of mine who spent years regretting a failed marriage. He carried that regret like a chain. But in his 60s, he finally forgave himself. He said, "I did what I thought was right then. Now I know better, and I choose differently." You could see the weight lift off his shoulders. Choosing yourself doesn't erase the past, but it stops the past from running the show. It turns regret into wisdom, and that wisdom becomes the compass for the years you have left. I'll be honest, this part used to sound a little mystical to me, but I've seen it happen too many times. When you start living truthfully, life has a way of rearranging itself. You might meet someone at the grocery store who connects you to an opportunity you never imagined, or you leave one chapter behind and suddenly the right door opens, almost effortlessly. Jung called it synchronicity. I call it grace. When I stopped pretending to enjoy work that drained me, I found opportunities that fit me better. Not because I had a 5-year plan, but because I was finally walking in the right direction. Does this mean everything becomes easy? No. You'll still face doubts, setbacks, and people who try to pull you back. But when you're aligned with your true self, even the hard days feel different. They feel purposeful. And that makes all the difference. This is the hardest lesson for many of us. At first, choosing yourself feels lonely. People leave, routines shift, the silence grows louder. And loneliness can feel like a threat. But here's the shift. If you embrace that silence, it becomes space. Space to rediscover passions you buried. Space to sit with your own thoughts without fear. Space to realize you actually enjoy your own company. I started walking more. At first, just to pass the time. But soon those walks became therapy. I'd notice small things. The way the evening light hit the trees, the sound of my own footsteps, the simple joy of breathing without rushing anywhere. That's when it clicked. I wasn't lonely. I was free. I knew another man, a widower in his 70s, who said, "The quiet used to haunt me. Now it heals me." He had discovered what I eventually did, that solitude isn't an absence, it's a gift. Loneliness is a teacher. It teaches you that you don't need toxic people or approval or noise to feel complete. And once you learn to love your own company, every other relationship in your life changes. You stop settling. You stop clinging. Because you know deep down, you are already whole. When you strip it all down, the journey comes back to a single decision. choosing yourself. Not recklessly, not selfishly, but courageously. It's easy to think, I'll wait until the timing is better. When I have more money, when I'm healthier, when I'm not so busy. But here's the truth. The perfect time never comes. Life doesn't wait for us to be ready. The choice to live authentically is always made in the middle of uncertainty. It starts small, with one boundary, one no, one honest word spoken aloud. And each step builds on the last until one day you realize you're finally living as yourself, not as a role you were handed. And yes, it's frightening, but it's far more painful to stay chained to a life that doesn't feel like yours. So let me turn the question to you. What does choosing yourself mean at this stage of your life? Maybe it means saying no to something that drains you. Maybe it means setting a boundary with someone who's crossed the line for years. Maybe it means dusting off that dream you shelved decades ago and giving it one more try. If you're not sure where to start, try this. Write down 3 small ways you've been ignoring your own needs. Then pick one and change it this week. Just one. Because every revolution begins with a single step. Whatever it looks like, your story matters. Share it. Because when you speak it aloud, you give courage to someone else who's still on the edge of choosing. Remember this, life doesn't begin when everything is perfect. Life begins the moment you decide to truly be yourself. And if you're here listening, maybe that moment is today. Thank you for walking this path with me. Until next time, take care of yourself. And don't forget, who you are is already enough.